89.5 WSOU. I'm Catherine, and today I'm sitting down with Diamond of Tetrarch. Their new album, Unstable, is out everywhere, April 30th. Diamond, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty awesome. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Are you guys out in LA? Are you guys in Georgia? What's going on?
So we're in Georgia. We've been in Georgia for probably like 2 months now. We came actually we were supposed to come just for Christmas, essentially. And we ended up being here and we are like, well, we might as well shoot some videos here. We're all here. So we ended up shooting the last couple music videos here actually, because it's a little easier to shoot them here than in LA right now, just because of what's going on. So we knocked out another one about 2 days ago. So now that we've gotten those done for now, I think we'll probably head back to LA in another like week or two.
Very nice. And yeah, speaking of music videos, I did see you guys were working on one very recently, like 2 days ago. Anything you can tell me about that? I'm assuming there's a new single coming out then before the album drops?
We have a couple coming out before the album drops. But that one, I will say, is like the one we just did. What was that? Yesterday, day before yesterday, whatever. It's definitely the heaviest track on the album. So there's that. But it's super cool. It has a really cool theme to it. So we're excited about it. That one comes next though. So we'll see.
Exciting stuff. And then speaking of music videos, what type of role does the band play in the creative process for music videos? Do you guys have an idea that you work off of, or is it mostly the director?
So we're pretty much like a hands-on band, like super hands-on with everything. And I know every band's different. Some bands kind of rely on their team and just are kind of like, hey, let us know what we need to do. But we're very much the opposite, and we like to have our hand in everything. So even when it comes to videos, usually what we'll do is if we don't have some kind of idea for like a treatment ourselves, we'll have the director send us something that they're thinking, and then we'll like help them build off of that basic idea. So it always ends up being something that we wanted in the end and something that we had a hand in. So I'd say pretty much every video we've done for this album has been like our idea or like, half and half, part of our idea of working with the director.
Yeah, and then speaking of a hands-on band, not only are you guys hands-on with music videos, but I know you guys love to tour. And the last time you guys got to be on stage was early 2020. How has it been for you guys as a band, not only not being able to tour and play to crowds, but also reach more people and, play your music to more people?
We take a lot of pride in like the touring aspect of our band. That's where we put a lot of effort into our live show because we feel like that's one of the best things about us and the best ways to sell ourselves. So obviously it's kind of a bummer and a little frustrating when you can't be out on the road doing what you feel you do best. But at the same time, last year happened to be probably like one of the biggest, if not the biggest years for our band as far as growth's concerned, which just is crazy for me to think like, oh man, what if we could have toured? But like it was a very, very, very good year for us. Like we grew a lot with our last single, I'm Not Right. We made a lot of new fans and all of that. And so it was a super good year. So I can't complain about it at all because like it literally went so good for us. But it would have been nice to be able to be on the road. So
Yeah, and 2021 was definitely an explosive year for you guys. I'm Not Right reached 1 million views. Not only that, but you guys got signed to Napalm Records in August. How was that getting signed to a major label?
it was awesome. Like we've been speaking to labels for a long time. Labels kind of took interest in our band at a very early stage, but the fits weren't always right. You know what I'm saying? Like we didn't pull the trigger on going with any kind of label until we knew it was the right fit with the right deal and the right team around us. And when Napalm came to us this past year, we could tell they were just really excited to have our band and knew what our vision was. We're very bold in saying we want to be one of the biggest bands in the world in our genre. So it's important to us that we have a team that believes that that can happen and that's ready to work with us to do so. And they were, right from the beginning. And it's awesome that they also are based in Austria. So like we have to do that. We have to be a worldly band, and so they help us get that reach that we wouldn't be able to get on our own. And that's super cool too, just seeing our band grow overseas. Like that's really important to us, and it's been showing to be doing really well. So It's been great partnering with them so far. Like everything's awesome, and we're excited to see what happens.
Yeah, and now moving to the new album, did you guys, because it's been a while since you guys released Freak, it was back in 2017. Had you guys
Mhm.
been sitting on new music for a while and now it's time to release it, or was it mostly done in 2020 and early or late 2019?
So we started. So basically, all of 2019, we spent basically writing the record, writing and kind of doing like pre-pro for the record. Um, we went into the studio at the end of 2019. So I think we went in October 2019. Yeah. And then we finished the record in like February 2020 or something like that. So um so yeah, we had kind of spent that whole year just writing and preparing. So it was something that we were deliberately doing, like getting ready to release a new record. It was just time. It had been a few years, and Freak had done really well, and it was time for follow up. So, but yeah, but you know, as soon as we finished the record, and we were like, we were slating it for like a summer 2020 release, honestly. And then everything happened, and it kind of slowed that down a little bit, like our release schedule, but it ended up, I think, being a positive for us. Like we ended up being able to put a lot more into the singles and all of that, and just getting so much more out of everything. It kind of slowed us down a little bit. It was kind of nice. So yeah.
That's good, yeah. And then how did the writing process evolve? Because like you said, you guys were writing in 2019. How do you feel it's changed since you wrote Freak?
So I think as far as like the dynamic of writing between like members and stuff, it's basically the same. So usually it's Josh and or I will come up with some kind of riff or song idea or a lyric idea or something, and we'll take it to the other one and kind of help each other build on that and make it better. And then once we get like a basis of a full song done between the two of us, we'll go to Ryan and Ruben, our drummer and bassist, and like they'll add their flair to it to make it, Tetrarch. Um, but when it comes to like musically, I think what was a little different was like with Freak, we were experimenting with something we had never done before. Like we had always been a band that we played really fast, a lot of riffy stuff. We didn't experiment with a lot of like groove or a lot of like weird guitar sounds or anything like that. And with Freak, we decided we want to pull some more influences in, some more elements, and try it. And when we saw that it worked with that album, um, we decided on this one to jump all in and just say, you know what, we can do this. We can do all this stuff. We can have groove, groovier songs. We can have heavy songs. We could have, we weren't so boxed in anymore. And they gave us the confidence to do that on this record.
Yeah, and I actually got to listen to the album, and I gotta say, the first 4 tracks, they are so heavy, and I absolutely love it.
Thank
And
you.
I definitely felt the influences, a lot of Slipknot and Korn influences, and then especially the track Negative Noise. That was a
hmm
super heavy track. Did you guys kind of know that moving from Freaks, you wanted to try to experiment not only, like you said, with the funk and the groove, but also go a little bit more heavier?
We did. It was funny. Our producer, when we were actually doing that song, he was like, "Man, I think this is the heaviest song you guys have ever written, or at least one of them." And we definitely did. We wanted to, be able to try the extremes of both. You know what I'm saying? And we like like with that song and another one I can think of. You know, they're super heavy and heavier than what we would have done on the last record or any other record. But like I said, on the flip side, we have songs that are like a little more hard rock than we would have done on, you know, the last record as well. So it's kind of cool. It like opened everything up for us to being like this kind of crossover type band that we want to be a super heavy band, but then we still have that crowd to, appeal to more people than just, a certain crowd. So yeah, that's been good.
Yeah, and then the last album or the last track on the album, Trust Me, definitely has a very different sound. I got major Deftones vibes from it. Uh, what kind of made you want to do that sudden change of style on the final track on the album?
um well, when we were writing, we came up with it's so funny. That song took so many different turns when we were writing it. I really wish you could hear how bad some of the some of it was, but it started off as a song that kind of reminded you of like Marilyn Manson's like Coma White, and like there was a lot of stuff it sounded like, you know, it like just kind of had a lot of vibes. But one thing we knew about it was that it was just it was really vibey. Like it was coming out to be just a super vibey song. Um, but what ended up happening is we scratched all the guitars off of it at one point, and it ended up just being bass and drums. And we were like, how would it sound if we just tried, you know, some electronics on this? Because it was just so left field and so vibey. And when we did, um, and when it got sent back to us, it came out sounding so cool. And that's what we said. We're like, man, it has kind of like this Deftonesy feel about it, like kind of drony. And whenever we do end up with a song like that, we always put it last on the record. It's like we always like go out with like this. I don't know how you want to look at it, but you know, you just kind of go out with this like really melancholy thing. Um, but yeah, it was kind of an accident song, you know, but that ended up just being super cool. And once we got the instrumentation down on it, Josh, you know, kind of decided the vibe he wanted to do vocally. But yeah, it's one of my favorite songs on the record because it's so different and it's so chill and cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool song. And you mentioned working with your producer, Dave Otiro, who's worked with bands like Cattle Decapitation and Chemist. And what sort of influence is he when you guys are in the studio recording?
It's really funny. It's super funny because Dave is like one of those people who he's the death metal guy. Like everyone knows him as like being this extreme metal guy. But what people don't know about Dave is like he has like the most amazing singing voice, and he's so good at like melody and harmonies and like coming up with like it's really crazy. Like you wouldn't know it because like I said, he's like the cattle decapitation guy, but he's really good at it. So what's really cool about working with him is he kind of knows like we're very much all about being in charge of like our ending product. You know what I'm saying? Like we want to be the ones to dictate how it's going to sound at the end. But he is always going to come in and give creative input, but let us decide on like, you know, if we want to take it or not. He doesn't make us feel like this is what I think. So this is what you have to do. Cause like any relationship with Tetrarch and someone like that, it never works out because we're just, like I said in the beginning, we're so hands-on. So Dave is just very like comfortable to work with for us. Like he's always giving input. He knows like what we're going for and how we like to think and how we like our songs to come out. So we just have a really good working relationship with him. And you know, he might come up with things like on some of the heavier songs that were like things that are heavier than what we would have ever thought of because he is that extreme guy, you know, technically. But he also helps us come up, like I said, with harmonies. Like if Josh is making harmonies in the studio vocally, he comes up with these crazy harmonies that we like would have never thought of, and we're like, man, that's super cool. So he just has a very broad approach to like, you know, giving input, and it helps us get out of ruts sometime, you know, because we might be thinking one way all the time, and he'll bring something in different. Like, no, like what if we try this, something we would have never thought of. So it's just really cool. It's really comfortable to work with Dave. We give him a lot of just because we like to mess with him, and I'm sure gets on his nerves. I'm pretty sure he muted me and Josh's text group with him on on Messenger on Facebook because he's probably so tired of us. He hasn't like read our chat in like 2 weeks. But yeah, no, he's super cool to work with. We really love it.
Yeah, and I can imagine with a band like you guys, because you guys can do like the heavy stuff, but then also Josh can come in with really clean vocals. It must be nice to have somebody like Dave who understands both sides of, the heavy, but also the cleaner vocal style.
Exactly, and that's what's super cool, you know. And he's never trying to just slash one or the other, you know. He's very much about embracing both styles, and he knows like how much of like the crossover line we like to walk. So he really helps us with like, you know, not letting us go too soft or not letting, you know, if we're too heavy or whatever. He knows exactly what we're going for, and it just helps a lot, you know.
Yeah, and then speaking of recording the album, was there any track that personally stood out to you that you really enjoyed working on or recording?
I honestly really liked I'm Not Right. I'm Not Right's my favorite song on the record, honestly. Because it was a song that it was like the first song we wrote rhythm and, you know, like the basic parts to. But during the writing process, it was the song that we put to the side. We were like, it's a fine song, you know. But and I remember Dave was like, I think that's my least favorite right now. This was like before anything was on it. And then I started putting like leads on it and putting kind of the weird sounds on it and everything. And when I started doing that, it kind of started coming to life. And I was like, oh my God, I love this song so much. And it became like, such a huge song for us and like all of our favorites. So I would say maybe that one, just because watching it go from being a song that kind of was looked over to just having so much life to it and like kind of this giving us the single that just, I don't know, just did so much for us. So it'll probably be that one, or there's a song on the record called "Stitch Me Up" too, and that was a really fun one to do, just because it has such a heavy groove to it and stuff. We all had a blast on that one.
Yeah, it was definitely a cool one to listen to, and I definitely heard the Korn guitar influence in there. And
Yeah.
and you guys have talked a lot about influences. You take influence from bands like Slipknot, Korn, and even Megadeth. Are there any influences that people might be surprised that you take from?
I mean, honestly, it's funny because like me and our drummer Ruben, we're very like we're the heavy ones of the band. Like we love Gojira and like all the heavy bands. That's what we love. Lamb of God. Josh and Ryan, on the other hand, are actually like not as like if you are in a car with them, they're not going to be the ones blasting like metal most of the time. Like Josh, when I'm in the car with him, it's like pop music or like his all-time favorite band next to Metallica is Green Day. So like if I had to pick one, I would say probably Green Day, because like a lot of people, I hear it a lot because I grew up with him, but like even just live, sometimes his vocal style, the way he pronounces things, is like kind of Billy Joe. Like he'll slur some words together or something like that. And I hear it too sometimes in our songs, and no one would ever think that because like we don't sound like Green Day at all. But like that was his favorite frontman coming up next to James Hetfield. So like I would probably say there's some there's some like Green Day in the vocals every now and then. And like, you know, for the most part, everything else that we love and listen to, like you can kind of probably, hear some of those elements every now and then. But we all listen to everything. Like I listen to everything from country to hip hop to, so any of that can come in at any moment. You know what I'm saying? But you know, at least me on the other hand, I'm undoubtedly a metal fan. So, there's not many surprises here.
All right, I got a few more questions for you. Number one, you mentioned Gojira. What did you think
Mhm.
of dropping "Born for One Thing" the other day?
Yeah, I love that band. That is one of my all time favorite bands in the world, and that song is really sick. Everything they do is just so like powerful and just heavy and just. But they're such cool guys, and they don't have like they're not full of tattoos and everything and looking like angry or anything, but they make the heaviest music on the planet. I love that about them, and it's always talking about something like super like something about the environment or something about the earth or something in this heavy music. I don't know, it's just such a they're just such a I love that band. They're such a sick band. But yeah, I'm stoked about the album. It comes out the same day as ours. But I'm super stoked about hearing it. I love every Gojira record. So
Yeah, and you mentioned being a massive metal fan. How is it for
mhm.
you, not only being a woman, but being a woman of color and kind of growing up in that scene and seeing all these bands?
It's super cool. I tell people all the time when I get into something, I never like to like sit on the sidelines. I like always want to be a part of it. So I use this silly example all the time, but when I was like 11 or something, I watched this Disney movie called Motocross. They had about this girl who became a motocross rider. And like I instantly wanted to become a motocross rider. Like I'm not one of the ones that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna become a motocross fan. I'm like, no, I want to be a motocross rider now. And that's kind of how it was with music. So when I got into heavy music and I started getting into different bands, I knew I wanted to play guitar and I knew I wanted to be in a band. Um, but I never thought about, I was never conscious of the fact that I was like different in it. I never was like, oh, but I'm a girl or I'm a black girl or anything like that. It was just like I saw Kirk Hammett and Dimebag and Slash and all that. Like, that's what I want to do. Like, there was nothing in my way. I didn't think about that. And I think that helped my journey a lot because I don't, I haven't had really many negative experiences with it at all because I think I've always been so positive about it. Like, I don't focus on that or let anyone else focus on that. I try to let my, you know, playing speak for itself. But it has been a blessing in disguise for us as well, because it brings attention to Tetrarch that we might not have gotten, like initial attention, if I wasn't in the band. You know what I'm saying? Like even on a small level of getting on stage at shows, and whereas other people be like, I never heard of this band, I'm gonna go get a drink. It's like they see me walk up and they're like, oh, what is this about? Let me stop and check this out. And we convert fans that way. It's just something that catches people's eye and something that's very different. So I always will look at it as a positive to our journey, because it's done nothing but help us, and it's not a gimmick or anything, it wasn't planned. I've just always was a weird kid. I just like things that most people like me probably wouldn't. So I got into this crazy thing in the world of metal, and I just fell in love with it. And I guess it's where I needed to be. I don't know.
All right, and then one final question. So you're known amongst your fans as having really awesome, iconic band T-shirts. Are there any new ones that you haven't yet debuted to the fans?
Probably. I got a Static X T-shirt that recently off eBay that came from like the early 2000s, which is sick. I got a early 2000s System of a Down Toxicity shirt. And what else did I get recently? A Stained shirt that I haven't worn. And I think I also got like an Ozfest. It's either like an Ozfest or I think it was an Ozfest shirt from like the early 2000s as well. So I had a good little shirt haul recently, but I'm sure we'll see those in some pictures. So it's really funny because at first I was like, it started because I look better in shirts that have like something on it, because I'm so dark in pictures. So it kind of just brings some light to like me because I'm just so dark. But like then it became this thing where everyone was like, oh, I want to see what band shirt she has on next. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, it wasn't intentional, but it's kind of cool to see people so interested in that.
Awesome. Well, Diamond, thank you very much for talking to me. Tetrarch's album Unstable again drops April 30th. Anything you want to say to the fans before they hear the album?
I just hope everybody enjoys the record. Be sure you go pre-order it from our website if you can. And I think there's something on the record that at least everybody will find that they will dig, whether you're a heavy fan or you're a rock fan or whatever. I think you'll find something you like.